Yesterday's 0-0 draw at Everton has left Arsenal fans all amiss. We don't know what's going on with our team, and I think the players feel very similar. In today's episode, I'm going to break down the Everton game, and I'm going to talk about what's not working and what can we do better. Let's get into it, shall we? Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host, Mark. Like you just heard, 0-0 versus Everton, very disappointing game, but for me, a very disappointing reaction from the fans as well. I'm going to get into that fan reaction. I'm going to get into where this leaves us, but it is a match review, so there is only one place to start, and that's the lineup, and I loved the lineup when it came out. Okay? Hindsight's 2020. We can all say, we should have done this, we should have done that, and maybe we should have played I don't know, whatever anyone's saying. Play Ethan and Martin, play Kai in midfield, whatever's being said. But having seen the Monaco game and how well we played in that game, especially with our midfield, that Rice Erdegaard Marino midfield, I thought, let's just carry on from that. I loved Miles Lewis-Skelly getting his first Premier League start. I thought he earned it with his performance in the Monaco game. I thought it was about what I would pick, genuinely. Saka, Havertz, Martinelli is my preferred front three. I think there is an argument to say maybe you play Trossard because we knew Everton would sit deep. But my genuine reaction to that lineup coming out was that is the lineup that I want to see. And I think that's the lineup that can go and win things for this club and win this game, of course. I was really confident in this game. I predicted in numerous formats and numerous places that this would be a comfortable win. Everton have not been good this year, and I'm going to start by giving Everton their flowers, I think, before we go through some of the bits of the game. Let's face it, they didn't come to win that game. They came to get a draw, and they got exactly what they wanted. Now, we have been criticised previously where we've dropped in and defended, and we've held our own as an Arsenal fan base and said, well, hang on, what do you expect us to do? We had 10 men against City, and there's been other certain times where we've dropped in and managed games. So for me, if we defend our team with that, there's going to be no criticism for a team coming and doing that against us. None whatsoever. And I think Everton managed spaces really well. They filled the middle of the park really, really well. And you could see several moments in the game where their lack of quality on the ball was very, very clear, but they did not come to play with the ball. They came to play without the ball. They were obviously fresh. They hadn't had a game midweek, and they obviously hadn't had a game last week because their Merseyside derby got called off. So they had the legs to do this. I think that's a really important piece of context for this game. We'd played 2 games whilst they'd been sat down, so obviously we're not going to look super sharp against them, but we still dominated the game. I think that is an important piece of context, not an excuse before anyone says that, but it is an important piece of context, and it does go some way to explaining why Everton were able to do what they did against us. But let's give them their flowers. They came with a plan, and they executed that plan very, very well. It was a bit of a nothing game. I'm going to quickly run through some stats in terms of how this went in terms of a game. I mean, we had all the field tilt. And when I say all the field tilt, it was quite incredible. Those field tilt graphs, Canon Stats do them, and they're the ones I'm looking at. Check out Canon Stats if you haven't seen them, by the way. Absolutely brilliant resource by Scott and Adam. 83.9% we had, but no blue on there at all on that field tilt graph. None. And for a period of time, we had 100% field tilt. That's the percentage of the kind of touches in the final third for a 10-minute moving average. For a good, I'm going to guess, about 15-minute period there, we had 100% of all the touches in the final third. And that's in the second half. It's incredible the level of dominance we had in this game. I'm just trying to find the possession stats. 76% possession, 13 shots to 2, 1.3 expected goals to 0.1. we dominated this game, absolutely dominated. And let's go through some of the flashpoints and the key moments before we talk about the goal generally. So obviously we started out and it was an early chance for Everton, their only open play shot, I believe. And it fell to Abdoulaye Doucouré, good player. Always thought he was decent, probably not going to play for a Champions League level club, but he's always going to do well in a Premier League team. He goes racing through after a good pass. Can't remember who the pass is from, sorry. But it's a massive, massive block from Gabriel. And, we saw that, and that was very early in the game. You think, maybe they are here to offer a bit of threat on the counter. Maybe there'll be spaces for us. But that game did not pan out like that. Once that kind of chance developed for them, they were very, very happy to sit in. And we have to be very grateful that didn't go in, because if this was the reaction that we've had after a draw, imagine if that had gone in and then we hadn't been able to break them open as well. In the first half, I think we had two really big chances, both falling to Martin Ødegaard, and one kind of half chance for Gabriel Martinelli. Martin Ødegaard did really, really well, getting himself a shooting position on the edge of the box quite early in the half, and he dragged it just wide. I think he should be getting that on target, a player of his quality, and we'll come on to some finishing stats later that are a little bit concerning. The biggest one, unfortunately, though, and I think he has to put it away. And again, hindsight is 2020. I'm going to sit here and say the game is completely different if Martin Ødegaard finishes his big chance. But I do think it is a chance that we have to be scoring. There's a little bit of play on the right, and it's a brilliant, brilliant ball from Kai Havertz. He just kind of flicks it with the outside of his left foot. It's not really a clean pass, but it gets it to Bukayo Saka and gets Bukayo Saka running at the Everton defence. Fantastic couple of pieces of skill from Bukayo Saka to jink past two Everton players, and then he cuts it back for Martin Ødegaard, and it's perfect for Ødegaard, if I'm being really honest. It's straight at him. He has plenty of time to take a touch, get it out of his feet, and he just delays on it and delays and delays and delays. He gets his shot off. It kind of hits the defender, hits Pickford. I don't know why he doesn't hit it earlier, number one. I think it's a little bit below him, but at that kind of proximity, just rip at one, in my opinion. And I don't know why he hits it so centrally. A player of Martin Ødegaard's quality should be burying that. And I'm going to say a lot of things in this podcast, but one thing I really want to emphasise at the start is two things can be true at once. So I can criticise Martin Ødegaard for that moment, or maybe even that whole performance he had yesterday, and still believe that Martin Ødegaard is an absolutely world-class player who, if we're going to do anything this season, is going to be absolutely fundamental to what we're going to do. So very important to know, if I'm criticising people, it doesn't necessarily mean I think they're terrible, but just yesterday we did not see the best of anyone, I don't think. I include Bukayo Saka in that, even though he was our most threatening player. I do include him in that. Gabriel Martinelli had a soft half chance down the left-hand side. We were basically given the ball back from Jared Branthwaite, who I thought all their defenders were quite poor on the ball, but brilliant off it. He gives the ball back. Rice plays it through to Havertz, who is looking for support, gets it to Martinelli, and he kind of gets it onto his left side. Probably takes it a little bit too wide for me. But to be fair, Ashley Young does get himself in a really good position. Takes a fairly weak shot. Pickford makes the save. We then go into the second half, and basically our best chance in the second half is the Saka volley. It's a good cross from Martin Ødegaard. Marino competes for it. It falls to Saka. And this is not one like the Martin Ødegaard one where I'm thinking he's got to bury that. I think he does really well to hit it low and hit it down at kind of Pickford's feet. It's a difficult chance with how it's dropping. He hits it at the corner, low. Pickford gets down and makes an incredibly good save. That is how I feel about that one. We didn't create enough. The Martin Ødegaard chance and the Saka chance are probably the best two that we created. And that one, I don't think Saka can do too much more. He's hit it hard. He's hit it low. He's hit it at Pickford, kind of just right of Pickford's feet. At the corner. It's a great save from Pickford. Let's give Everton flowers, because that's what they came to do. Jordan Pickford was really good, claimed some crosses, made some big saves, and yeah, I think he had a good game. We have to admit that. Then there was the penalty shout, and for me, this was never a penalty. Couldn't believe VAR looked at it. It's clear Mikalenko gets it. I think you can maybe look at the guy from the other side of Partey. It's on Thomas Partey who runs into the box after he came on. Mikalenko already has knocked the ball away. I think he's already got the contact. I think it's soft from the fella on behind Partey. I was not screaming for that. And the rule that they play on Arseblog, that I always go with as well, is if that happened at the other end and it was given, would I be raging about it? I would. So I don't think I can expect it this way round. So that was the game, really. We had a lot of horseshoe football. Everton came with a plan. They dominated the middle spaces and they kept us out. And, we can look at Pickford having a good game. We can look at them filling the middle of the pitch and stopping us doing that. But I think really this game was a lot more about what we weren't able to do than what Everton did. To be fair, I've given them their credit, but I do think we should be doing better. And for me, we were very slow and laboured in our passing at a number of occasions during the game. We had some kind of 10-15 minute periods where we picked it up in the second half and just before half time. And then, there was plenty of urgency once the game was in threat, but the urgency didn't come with much quality. And that was the real issue. When we needed to be fast, we weren't, and when we were fast, we didn't have the quality to do it. And I think that is the story of this game. We maybe were a bit slow and laboured when we had the game in our hands, early in the game, which we could have gone and done something with. But apart from that, when we did show urgency, the quality wasn't there, and there wasn't. I watched the Monaco game. Can't believe they're the same team, to be honest. Watched the Monaco game, and I thought, wow, some really good passes here. Martinelli, especially, he whipped one in for Gabriel Jesus, the Mars Lewis-Skelly pass, the cross from Jesus for the Saka goal, of course. There were some real moments of quality, and I couldn't believe we weren't further ahead, and I was really happy with that performance, especially that open play performance. In this game, it was quite the opposite. We didn't create enough and didn't do enough at pace. I take notes throughout the game, so it makes these podcasts a little bit easier. I usually take 6-7 pages of notes. I had 3 yesterday. 3. And that shows you how little we created. How few flashpoints there were. I'm just looking back through. I had to watch the highlights again before coming on this podcast to kind of remind myself actually what did happen, because so much of it was just us moving the ball around the back, entering the Everton half, Everton third, and then just kind of moving it around. And when we did play a ball in, whether it was a cross or a like a through ball or anything like that, nothing stuck. Nothing was quite on it. And you're going to have those days, right? You are absolutely going to have those days. But there's 2 things you need on a day like that. One, you need a bench. It's going to come on and contribute, and I'm going to come on to that because I think this is where our season's really not going well, if you ask me. I will come on to that later. You need that, but then you also need just like a star finisher, I think, and I've said this on a couple of times when I've been on podcasts or on this podcast. I think we have Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard as 2 world-class attackers. None of the others are world-class. But they are both facilitators. They are assist guys, right? Saka has got a fair number of goals this year. He's improving his finishing, but he's not a killer. He's a killer when it comes to assists and crosses and creativity. We need a killer finisher who will just score you a goal from nothing. And I don't believe it's to replace Kai Havertz. I'm a big Kai Havertz fan. I don't believe it's the number 9. I believe it's the left wing. I won't go over that again. I've spoken about that a number of times. I don't believe Martinelli's ceiling is as high as we needed it to be, and I don't think he's going to get there. So I think that's where we're at, and this was just one of those games where you need an impact for your bench or you need a brilliant finisher, and we didn't have it. One thing I want to talk about just before I have a break is the substitutes. I saw a lot of kind of hate for the substitutions, and I didn't quite 100% understand it. So I'm going to kind of break down the subs that happened, and then 2, talk through kind of what I think the thinking was, and then obviously where they worked or didn't work. So the first one, we had 3 kind of substitute windows that we used. The first one, Rice came off and Ødegaard came off for Jorginho and Ethan Nwaneri. Now, the Rice one, I believe, is a fitness thing. I think Arteta said that after the game. So I'm going to discount that one because I think he's making that change simply from a point of view of we need to take Declan Rice off. I've got two options on the bench. I've got Thomas Partey, I've got Jorginho, and actually we probably want the coach, the coach on the pitch out there being Jorginho, so they've gone for Jorginho. I've got no issue with that. And I don't think anyone can have any issue with that because they need to change that. And actually, Jorginho, Thomas Partey, very similar. They progress the ball really well. Ødegaard for Ethan Nwaneri. This is one at the time I was like, I don't mind that. Ødegaard wasn't having his best game. I mean, there was a couple of really loose passes from him. He obviously missed that big chance, which is really, really not good. And I can understand taking him off. Now, he doesn't look sharp. He doesn't look like he's got up to full fitness since his injury, but he has been contributing. And at the time, I posted on Blue Sky that I thought this was an Ethan Nwaneri game. I could see a world where he comes on, does that kind of move where he picks the ball up deep, runs at a player, drops a shoulder, gets past them and creates something. So I could see the logic. One, Ødegaard not maybe 100% fit, not looking super sharp. 2, Ethan Nwaneri has the ability to change a game. And 3, Ødegaard's not playing that great anyway. Now, in hindsight, I really must say, in hindsight, it wasn't the right play. Because Ethan Nwaneri wasn't able to influence the game with that many Everton players around the central areas. And he was drifting out to Saka to try and get some joy and some combination. But he wasn't working well with Saka over there. And as soon as we took Ødegaard off, for everything he wasn't doing well, I think, again, we saw what we're like without him. And even when he's not playing well, he's really integral to this team, just to move us forward or create a little bit of chaos and carnage in the final third. Just that, the short passes, the slightly progressive passes, the touches he can do, the way he can turn on a dime. He really does make a difference, even when he's having a bad game. So whilst I like the change at the time, and I did think Ethan Nwaneri could change this, and Ødegaard's not playing well, in hindsight, not the right move, and we lost effectiveness from that point. The second changes we made, second window of changes, I should say, Miles Lewis-Skelly off, Thomas Partey on, which meant Timber went to right back, Timber went to left back, Partey went to right back. Again, I didn't hate this one. Now, I've seen a lot of people say, but you need Timber on the right to make those runs. Timber wasn't making those runs. Let's be pretty clear. He wasn't able to make those runs. I don't know whether he was 100% fit. This is something we're seeing a lot right this year. Our players just aren't able to get fit because we're playing so many games. We can't get people fit and sharp. So he wasn't making those runs, and I thought Miles Lewis-Skelly had a good game, but he wasn't affecting us offensively, so why not kind of bring Thomas Partey on? We've already got Jorginho in there, get Partey in there as well, and actually, we say, he's at right back. He wasn't really, was he? Because Everton were just not offering anything in terms of counter-attacking threat or anything like that, so what Thomas Partey ended up doing was becoming another midfielder, and he actually progressed the ball fairly well down that side, I thought. So again, I can understand that one. In hindsight, I didn't hate it. I thought Thomas Partey, he obviously made the run that was for the penalty appeal. Wasn't a penalty, but he made some nice passes as well, and I like the thinking behind it. Can Lewis-Skelly do 90 yet in the Premier League? Again, that's one I just don't know from a fitness point of view. Mikel Merino coming off for Gabby Jesus. Great. I thought that was a great change at the time. Really important, because I thought, well, Gabby Jesus was really effective and threatening against Monaco. Let's put him up top. Kai Havertz in the 8. That's a much more offensive change. Two things happened, though. We ended up with 2 8s from Mikel Merino and Martin Ødegaard, who weren't having good games. I thought Merino was sloppy. I thought Ødegaard wasn't great, but as I've just said, it was clear without him we were worse. We went from that and 2 players who are ultra disciplined in terms of their position, etc., to Kai Havertz, who hasn't played in that 8 for a long, long time, and Ethan Nwaneri, who was looking to Saka for support all the time. So we kind of lost a lot of central presence. And my main frustration with this, and People who listen to this podcast a lot are going to think he's going backwards and forwards at Gabby Jesus, I thought he was really good in the Monaco game. Hounded him out of the Fulham game. I thought he was terrible there. A really good response in the Monaco game, but needed to improve his finishing. In this game, this cameo, I thought he was terrible. Absolutely terrible. He made no influence on the game, and I saw him at left back at one point, and I saw him at right back at one point. And I thought to myself, so Mikel Arteta has made this change to put you at number 9 and get Kai Havertz in the 8 to make us more offensive, and you are dropping not just deep, but into the defensive line. And then you're not sprinting up to get up there when we've won the ball back. I don't know what we do about this fella. I don't. The Monaco game gave me a bit of hope, but it's clear he's not a finisher, and it's clear that he is just, I don't know, out to be a maverick at this point. Out to be a maverick. That's kind of all I can say. That change really ruined our shape because he wasn't disciplined at all. Trossard came on for Martinelli. That one's a pretty bog standard change for Arsenal, so I didn't hate it. I thought Trossard was okay, but that's about it. Could I notice a difference? No, I think that's concerning. So going to go for a little break here. When we come back, I'm going to talk about a really key stat that I think is very important, and then I'm going to talk about some of the context around why we feel the way we feel. Ultimately, I think we had a bad day yesterday, but we still dominated the game. We still didn't let a Premier League opposition anywhere near us. They had nothing. We were the better team. We just didn't put it away and didn't finish it. The stats I'm going to talk about afterwards are going to tell us a little bit why and some of the context as to why these results feel so painful. Hello everyone, I just want to interrupt myself and say a massive thank you for listening to Arsenal Unfiltered. Whether you've enjoyed this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered or any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, the best way you can help me grow this podcast and grow this community is by going onto your podcast provider and hitting follow wherever you get your podcasts from. What you'll get for hitting that follow button is 3 Arsenal-related podcasts, match reviews, episodes of the Arsenal Roundup, which is our news show, straight to you for free every single week. I do 3 a week, and I'm really, really trying to grow the Arsenal Unfiltered community. So if you hit follow, you will get those 3 podcasts for absolutely nothing, straight to you every week. Another massive thank you for listening to any episode, this episode, or anything you've listened to. I really, really appreciate it. Hit follow and enjoy more Arsenal Unfiltered. So, like I said just before the break, let's talk a little bit about some of the stats that I think are causing results like yesterday, results like the Fulham game, results like the Newcastle game. And we have to start with, basically, we are dominating most games we play. We have not been out XG'd since the Bournemouth game. And obviously we had 10 men in that game, and Bournemouth were really, really impressive. Let's give them their flowers as well. So that's 2 months ago. So we've dominated every game since then. And some of the field tilt numbers we're creating are very, very impressive. So let's talk about what we're doing well. What we are doing well is dominating teams. We are not allowing them out. Even good teams like Chelsea, we out XG'd them. Good teams like Manchester. Well, no, I'm not going to call Manchester United a good team, but a team with expensive players, Manchester United. We're just out XGing them, dominating them, keeping them in their half. And really, the only thing other teams can do against us is counter. Teams like Everton are showing that they're not really bothering to do that. Fulham, they got 1, and it was a very low XG chance they got a result there. When maybe the stats say we should have won that game 1-0, but we didn't. This game, we probably also should have won it 1-0. We didn't. So why is that? Now, stats, underlying metrics, a lot of people kind of say, well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is scoring goals. And they're right to an extent. They are. You do not get points for winning the XG battle. You do not get points for winning the field tilt battle. You get points for scoring more goals than the opposition and winning the game. But they are really useful to show us where we're doing well, which is the domination, and where we're not doing so well. So I've taken a list of our midfielders, and I've taken I've not taken, FBref have done goals minus expected goals. So basically this measure is a kind of measure of the finishing ability that you've got in your team at any given season or time or year, however you want to measure it. So a positive number shows that you have kind of done better with the quality of chances than you're expected to do. A negative number is quite the opposite. You've had high quality chances and you've not scored enough. I've taken our midfielders and our forwards. Let's just run through these in order. Sorry if this is a little bit listy, but I think it really is important for the point. Saka is overperforming his XG by +3. He's scored 3 more goals than he's been expected to. Thomas Partey by +0.7. He's outperformed. And Kai Havertz by +0.1. Those 3 players have outperformed the chances that they have been provided with. Those 3 players. Should caveat, this doesn't have the Everton game in it, so it's just general stats from previous games. But for all competitions, that's where we're at. 3 players are outperforming it. From there, Gabriel Martinelli, -0.3. Mikel Merino, -0.5. Raheem Sterling, -0.5. Leandro Trossard, -0.8. So no whole numbers there, right? But still, that's not good. Raheem Sterling, he should be an impact sub. Leandro Trossard or Gabriel Martinelli should be a really good impact sub. Mikel Merino, goals from midfield. That's what we wanted from him. We wanted box crashing. We wanted effectiveness. We haven't had that in terms of finishing yet. Declan Rice, -1.2. Martin Odegaard, -1.8. And Gabriel Jesus, -2.3. Now, Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard are 2, nailed-on starters for us. Absolutely brilliant players. They have combined to underperform their XG by a total of 3 goals. So that's 3 goals that we are missing from key starters. Gabby Jesus, -2.3. So just from those 3 players, we are 5.3 goals down based on the kind of the quality of the chances that we've created. So forget that Bukayo Saka's outperformed his numbers. We have been just wiped out from Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard there. And I said at the start, or some way through, 2 things can be true. So I don't think we should use this stat to absolutely nail these players and say they're having a bad season. Do I think Martin Odegaard's having a bad season? No. I think he didn't have his best game yesterday. I think he should have buried that chance, but I don't hold anything against him. Do I think Declan Rice should be, one of our main contributors for goals? No. But let's think about what he did last year. He did contribute with goals and assists, and we haven't had the goals this year. Leandro Trossard, Gabriel Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus. Really important players to go and get goals. And I've said earlier, I think we've got 2 world-class kind of forward-thinking players in Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka. I think Kai Havertz is a level below those guys, but still very, very good. Since he's come to Arsenal, he's basically had a goal or an assist every other game. That's pretty good for a player that's asked to do what he's asked to do. I think that's really quite impressive. And I think he brings a lot to us tactically as well. Again, I'm not using these stats just to nail these players or say, we should be changing them. They're not good. They're terrible. I'm not using that. What I am saying, though, is over a season, if those numbers carry on as they are, we could dominate all the games we want, but you have to put the ball in the back of the net. Now, I haven't got the stats from Mohamed Salah or the Liverpool forwards, but I would imagine they are very, very impressive in comparison to the quality of chances that they create and the goals they score. We need to start, taking a half chance. We need to start winning these games. The Fulham game, the Everton game, the Newcastle game, where the margins are really fine. We need to start taking a pot shot. We need to start with getting really quality finishing. We're not doing that. Now, there's 2 schools of thought here. Now, I don't know if I think one is right or the other is right, but one kind of idea is that Mikel Arteta is so obsessed with control, he's coaching it out of these players. He's coaching the ability to take a pot shot, take a half chance out of them because he thinks, we must have the perfect chance. I've seen a lot of people suggest that. I would be surprised. I would be surprised because we scored 91 goals last year. It was our highest ever goal scoring tally. Sporting, West Ham, we've put a couple of teams to the sword so far this year. Forest as well, you could say. We got 3 there. So, are we really saying that these players can't do this? or Mikel Arteta is telling them not to. I don't think so. For me, there are kind of two really important things. Variance, okay? There is a world where just in the kind of normal variation of football, that actually you do underperform your XG a little bit, because just how a chance falls to you, how you are on a certain day, you might get a high quality chance and the team are already 3-0 up and you kind of don't think it's super important, or there's tons of pressure on you with a high quality chance and that beats you. That creates variance, right? So where the stats show actually, that was a really great chance, but it can't capture the context. So, these things happen, okay? And it's normal variation. There is the other thing, and for me this is the major thing, is we have had a couple of players perform very, very well this year. I'm going to go with Bukayo Saka, I'm going to go with Gabriel Magalhaes, I'm going to go with William Saliba, Jurrien Timber, Thomas Partey, I'm going to throw him in there. I think Kai Havertz has been good. Those guys are doing really, really well. It's the supporting cast that are not doing enough. I think our stars are doing what they need to do. Declan Rice is probably the one that you're looking at saying maybe he can do a bit more generally. I'm not saying offensively, but generally. But he has been low on fitness and he has been getting better and better as his fitness has improved. So, in terms of our real star players, I think they're playing okay. The supporting cast, though, Gabriel Jesus, Leandro Trossard, Gabriel Martinelli, Raheem Sterling, Mikel Merino, all underperforming their XG. If the supporting cast don't start chipping in with goals, they don't start chipping in with more contributions, it doesn't matter how good a season Bukayo Saka has. It doesn't matter how many goals from corners Gabriel scores. It doesn't matter. Because actually, those guys can't be relied... Well, they can be relied upon to perform every time, but we can't put that kind of pressure on them. They're not going to turn up to every game and score and dominate every single game. The supporting cast have to contribute. And I think the games like Fulham, the games like Everton, are the games where these players have to come in. And I said it earlier, you have to have someone from the bench. In a game like this, we can't quite bust it open. It's not quite going for you because it's just variance and we're not quite getting things right. Players are not clicking. You have to have someone to come on and win you the game. Who we brought on, Gabriel Jesus, was at left back and underperforms his XG and can't finish a chance. And I just think for everything we do brilliantly and everything that we're doing so well with our structure and some of the players who are performing really, really well, when it's not clicking, we don't have an answer. And that's our problem. We don't have a game changer. We don't have someone from the bench. And we can talk all we want about, is Kai Havertz the right number 9 for us? Forget that. Forget whether we've got the right number 9. I think he is, but I fully accept people who don't believe that. I fully accept that opinion. Kai Havertz is not the problem right now. The problem is the guys around him. Who's coming on for him? Who's on the left wing for him? They're not contributing enough. I promise you, that is it. And this is where I think yesterday went wrong. I think it's where a couple of games have gone wrong this year. We've won a lot of games. We've played well in a lot of games this year, especially in the Champions League, where our stars have done their thing, got us over the line. If it doesn't click for them, the supporting cast have to come in and do their bit. They're not doing their bit right now. That is truly what I believe. Truly what I believe. And as well, that's kind of what I think went wrong in the Everton game and some of the previous games. So I'm going to kind of sum up and stop talking about the match yesterday. Sorry that I got into a bit of a ramble there, but I think my point, it's really important to remember that, we are doing a lot of things right. The team are impressive as a team. We dominate games. We dominate Premier League and Champions League oppositions week in, week out, playing every 3 days. That is impressive in and of itself. However, we've got some players really underperforming in their contributions and they're all doing it at the same time. That's not going to work. We can't rely on Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz to go and win us every single game. Some of the other attackers need to do more. We need more off the bench. That's the point. That's the Everton game. Now I'm going to kind of zoom out a little bit and talk about some of the reaction. I'm not going to discuss some of the really negative and silly, irresponsible reactions I've seen online. I'm not going to give any noise to them because I just think that's what they're going for. That is what these reactionary posts are going for, and I think some of them have crossed the line at the Everton game. So I don't want to give them any noise or any oxygen. What I do want to talk about is the general feeling around Arsenal and why context really matters. Okay? So we have had two brilliant seasons where we've run really close for the title. And we've established ourselves as an incredibly impressive team in the Premier League, the only team in the last 2 years who are really taking it to Manchester City, and we've become one of the big teams. We are a scalp now for every single team. Everton fans will be delighted with that 0-0, and people want to come and get us, and that's great. This is where we wanted to be. We wanted to be competing for trophies. We wanted to be back in the Champions League, having nights like the Bayern night. I went to the Porto home game last year, and I thought, this is fantastic. My club is back where it needs to be. We had a long time, five years, where we weren't like this, and we have to give Mikel Arteta a lot of credit for all the progress we've made. And this year as well, we've dominated, like I said, many games. Basically every game, we dominate it. So that is really frustrating for us when we've seen all this progress. We still see that, there's an element of we are a brilliant team still. Lots of things are going well. And I think we are, this year, if we'd finished a couple of chances better and we had better attackers, we're right up there with Liverpool, aren't we? We're right up there. And so I think some of the reaction is from an element of we are so far down the line, and over the last 2 seasons we've gone so close that we feel like there's just one step to go and we can't do it this year. That's how I feel. I can zoom out and look at this team and go, actually, I really like this team in terms of the players we've got. I can understand why when we couldn't get Sesko and we couldn't get Nico Williams, we didn't go back out for an attacker, because maybe we thought, you know what, Gabriel Jesus, Martinelli, we're not going to get better than that for the money this summer. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, and maybe you'd look back and go, yeah, we need to do something there. But actually, I can understand that world. I can understand we needed to be net zero over the summer, and we made sales, and we dealt with our squad like that because of PSR rules and financial fair play and all of this sort of stuff. I can understand all of that, but I just feel like we are just one step away, and that's where the frustration's coming from for me and for a number of Arsenal fans. The key thing in our reactions is we have to remember where we were, where we've come from, and the fact that it's not like we've dropped off a cliff this year. It really hasn't. I saw some interesting stats about, where we were at based on results against results against the same opponents last year. We were only sort of 4 points off, I think, before yesterday. Goals scored, we were not that far off as well. So actually, we are just so close in a number of games. I think that's really, really important, and it's that kind of maximal frustration for the 5% we need to get over the line, because you're so close. When you can see the target that you're going for, it feels just as far away. The last hurdle is always the hardest hurdle. I think the other thing that's causing some of the reaction is Liverpool and City, their seasons, right? So if Liverpool had lost against Fulham, which maybe they should have done, and Southampton hadn't have given them the goals that they'd given them, and actually Mohamed Salah wasn't having the season of his life, they would be closer, and actually we'd be looking at this going, okay, well, we've dropped 4 points in 2 games, but actually we're a lot closer. We're close to Liverpool. We're not that far off, and we can still pull it back. It's okay. We've not lost in 8. Suddenly, it's a very different picture. But they're kind of performing brilliantly and steaming away from it. That makes us feel terrible, because we should have been that team, in all of our heads. As well, City have just dropped off 1 win in 10. So we're looking at that going, God, we need to be taking advantage of this. This team, Manchester City, have denied us twice. We have this big rivalry with them now, okay? And they're terrible, right? At the moment, they are terrible. They will come back, I promise you that. Don't think Man City are done, but right now they're terrible, and we're not taking advantage of it. So that context is adding to the frustration, and I think as well, the points that were robbed from us earlier in the year. If you throw in 4 points for the Brighton game and City game, where we had 2 dodgy red cards, okay, you don't worry so much because actually we're much, much closer to Liverpool again. And, yes, we drew at Fulham and yes, we drew at Everton or with Everton at the Emirates. And we're thinking, oh no, we needed to win those games. We needed to win those games, but we'd be a lot closer and the context would change. So I think the reaction is what the reaction is. We can't criticise people for how they feel or how they want to feel about their club, but I think we really need to, one, avoid reactionary posts that are just going for your clicks and your likes and stuff like that. Just stay away from them because they are just terrible news. But we have to remember that there's a lot of context going on. We've had points robbed from us. We've had Liverpool come out of nowhere having a brilliant season. We have just not been able to get the 5%. We're still a really good team. And if we can address that in January, maybe, we still have a chance of doing something good this year. And I want to end on just a message. Frustrating game yesterday. Absolutely. I've covered, some of the subs that didn't go well, or some of the subs that, some of the players that really just did not perform. I've covered some of the moments that I think we should have done better on. I've covered some of the stats for this year where we're just not performing and those players who are not contributing enough. Covered some of the context as to why it feels so bad, but I just want to finish on this message to say this team have come such a long way and done so much for Arsenal as a club, but also for us as fans. And days like yesterday are going to happen. Days like the Fulham game are going to happen. And they're frustrating and they're so difficult to deal with, but there's always context and there's always reasons for things happening. Okay? And I don't think those reasons are that Mikel Arteta is doing a bad job or the players aren't trying or, the board haven't wanted to invest. All of that is rubbish. All of that is absolute crap. And we've got to remember that this team are trying very hard. They looked crestfallen at the end yesterday. They really did. And yes, opportunities are passing us by. We have to keep supporting the team, though. That is my number one message. My number one message out of all, how no matter how garbled this podcast has been or how much I've gone around the houses with this one, because I think this has been quite an emotional chat, is we've got to keep supporting the team. We are still in 4 competitions. The Premier League looks less and less likely by the day, but actually we are really good in the Champions League. We're doing fantastically there. We're 3rd in the Champions League. 3rd, doing brilliantly. We're still in the Carabao Cup and we've got a big opportunity in the FA Cup. We want the Premier League. I get that. Fans want the Premier League. We all want to go and win that one. However, if there is a trophy out there, we have to keep supporting this team. And I do still believe this team can go and win a trophy. I do still believe that even if it's not the Premier League or even the Champions League, I still believe it's valuable. I still believe it's important just to set up a winning mentality, to get us our first one, to then go and get 5 or 6 more under Mikel Arteta. So please, no matter what happens in games, and I was so frustrated when Martin Odegaard missed that chance yesterday. I didn't think he had a very good game. I'm still going to support him. I think Gabriel Martinelli, Leandro Trossard, Gabriel Jesus, Mikel Merino, I think they need to be doing a lot more. I think they need to be contributing a lot more. I'm still going to support them. And if I've got one message for everyone, it's that. Yesterday was frustrating. The Fulham game was frustrating. There are things going on that frustrate us, and we're having to watch Liverpool have a brilliant year whilst we're having struggles and our, things aren't going our way. But just please keep supporting this team, because there are still positive moments for us for the rest of this year. That is 44 minutes down, so I'm going to stop talking. Again, apologies. That might have been a bit of a rambled one, but I think it's important to have these chats after frustrating days like yesterday and get that message out there that we need to keep supporting the team. I'm going to stop now. Really, really appreciate everyone who listens to this episode or who has listened to any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered. If you've enjoyed it, please do click follow wherever you get your podcasts from. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Enjoy the Manchester derby later. Hopefully one team gets destroyed. Don't really mind which it is. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Thank you for following. Thank you for listening. And I'll speak to you very, very soon.